Bible makes absolutely no normative claims whatsoever about the morality or immorality of abortion.
Absolutely and whatsoever don't really have a place in academics and scholarship. As far as a normative claim is what ought to be, not what is, but what ought to be. So your claim is that based on what the Torah says, there is no inference whatsoever that can be made regarding abortion. It is true, the Torah does not mention abortion in and of itself. But your claim is that nothing that says in the Torah gives any indication whatsoever of what the normative claim, the morality and ethics, should be. Now, before we go into this whole logical hoopla, I'll say this. The Torah says that if a person is acting recklessly and he strikes a woman and the child miscarries, then there's a life for a life. Tell me how that is not pretty darn close to telling you what the status of an abortion is. Continue.
And anyone who is appealing to the Bible as directly endorsing or condemning abortion is really just appealing to their own interpretive tradition and trying to leverage the Bible as a rubber stamp to authorize it.
You basically said the same thing twice, and I want to know what you mean by that.
And the Bible does make some normative claims about some of the constituent issues that are a part of the contemporary debate about abortion, such
Okay, so there are some normative claims that the Bible makes. What do you concede?
as the legal and moral status of a fetus. And
Okay, so the Torah says the legal status of a fetus. And based on the legal status of a fetus, you're saying that to jump and say that if the fetus is a life, a person, a child, there is absolutely no way a person could then infer what ought to be the rule in a case of abortion. It's true. Abortion was around the time the Torah was written. It was very, very early. Very, very, very early. And it probably wasn't surgical. It was more like chemical. Early on, there were some indications in medicine regarding certain herbs that a woman would eat that may prematurely eject a child. When the Torah was written, there were no surgical abortions. So therefore, the Torah doesn't deal with surgical abortion because it didn't exist, even though the chemical abortion did exist. Okay, continue.
but we can hardly claim to be able to extrapolate a conclusion about abortion itself just from some of these claims about some of the constituent elements.
But why can't you? If the Torah gives the status of a fetus and it says that it's a living thing and it has a life and it has value, why can't you then extrapolate and say, well, if a person would then prematurely destroy a fetus, there should be some sort of repercussion? Tell me why that can't happen.
Humans are not fundamentally rational and logical creatures. We are not now. We certainly were not when the Bible was being composed. We are primarily driven by intuitions and identity politics, and logic and reason have varying degrees of salience and relevance to the conclusions that we draw. So we cannot say, because the Bible says X about the status of a fetus, it would therefore conclude Y about abortion. We just can't say that.
You keep saying we can't say that because humans are irrational, but on the same token, they make logical conclusions. So again, the Torah gave the status of a fetus. So why can't there be any conclusions? You're not saying why there can't be any conclusions drawn from it. You're talking around the issue. You're saying, well, humans basically like to take their interpretations and infer their own meaning. Yeah, that's what you do. You take a text, you find out what a text says, and then you apply it to the circumstances. That's law. You take this law, and you take your set of facts, and you apply the law to the facts that you have. You're not going to have every single case written in every single law. You're not going to have every single case written in the Torah. So you take what the Torah says and you apply it to facts. Why can't that be done?
And the attempts to leverage the Bible as directly condemning or authorizing abortion are really just about a specific interpretive tradition, which
Now you went off on a tangent. Now you're saying interpretive traditions. Interpretive traditions is all the commentary that goes on. And I agree. People like to give commentary because they like to make their own inferences. So you want to say, let's ignore all the commentary and make your own conclusion. No one should ever look at scholarship. They should make their own conclusion. even though you look at scholarship. But let's say that. Let's ignore scholarship and let's make our own conclusion. Again, the Torah told us the status of a fetus, what it is. Why can't then one infer that if someone does something to that fetus, X, Y, and Z penalty or civil penalty or no penalty would be enacted? Tell us why.
Is usually first imposing a presupposition of univocality, which is operating over and against what the data actually indicates about the Bible and its many different voices, and is also usually extrapolating rather dubious inferences based on rather dubious interpretations.
I think he's accusing the commentary of a dubious interpretation. So all the commentators have dubious interpretation, but we are supposed to make our own interpretation. And that's going to be a dubious interpretation. Why is looking at what the Torah says about the status of fetus a dubious interpretation? You admitted the Torah does make normative claims about the status of a fetus. Now you're calling it dubious. That's double talk.
All intended to arrive at the desired conclusion.
So you're assuming that scholars always look back and they say, well, I want to ban abortion, so therefore I'm going to find it in the Torah. And I agree. That's not a good way of interpreting things. Circle back. You admitted that Torah makes normative claims about the status of a fetus. So I'm not looking backwards. I'm looking at the Torah. I see what it says regarding the status of a fetus, and I'm applying it to the facts, not the other way around. Why can't I do that?
Again, is based primarily on the interpretive tradition and not what's in the text itself. So once again, anyone who is saying the Bible directly endorses or condemns abortion is really just appealing to their own tradition and just wants to use the Bible as the rubber stamp to authorize it.
You have not answered the question. And it seems like you are trying to somehow talk around the issue and say the Bible does not endorse abortion because it doesn't specifically say abortion, while admitting that it does say exactly what the status of fetus is, and it does tell you the repercussions of a person who harms another life, and yet you say you can't make those interpretations. Any questions? Let me know.